This is the Astrology and Tarot Show with Jessica Adams.
Thanks, Shane. Here is your tarot and astrology for the week starting April 28. But first, a true prediction. The Dow Jones was headed for the worst April since 1932, said the Wall Street Journal on April 21. And the prediction that you saw on my website was that April 21 was a Wall Street day when, quote, a lot happens at once. Well, you can say that again. You can check the original predictions for Wall Street on my website, and they are ongoing. Your tarot card this week is Aries, the Knight of Wands, Taurus, the Seven of Cups, Gemini, the Three of Swords, Cancer, the Eight of Cups, Leo, the Empress, Virgo, the Four of Wands, Libra, the Hierophant, Scorpio, the Four of Cups, Sagittarius, the Hanged Man, Capricorn, the Eight of Pentacles, Aquarius, the Magician, and Pisces, the Eight of Wands. If you have factors at 25, 26, 27, Taurus, then I'm sure this is no surprise to you, but your finances and property shows instability, but what you gain is about freedom and independence, and those are priceless rewards. Aries. Well, Aries, you'll have more radically different options to look at with or without your bank. An extremely unusual new income source is possible by July. A chance to explore either shopping, earning, saving, or your shares very differently, even your insurance company, pension or superannuation, may begin to show you what's possible, radically different and very new. Uranus in Taurus is an ongoing reality for you until July when it stops. And you know this cycle quite well because you've had it since 2018. But what's happening at the moment is it's picking up speed. So you're dealing with a zigzag on the graph. And whenever that happens, try not to bank too much on who or what is coming into your bank account or even going out of it, as it may not last very long. Uranus in astrology is a symbol of everything that's sudden. It rules electrical storms. It rules lightning bolts. It's very much associated with sheet and forked lightning and has been for about 2,000 years. This planet, which was discovered in 1781, is also associated with new inventions. So when we see it going through your finance sector, it's always about things like cryptocurrency, NFT, crowdfunding, and all the variations on a theme. There will be more as you get to July because the cycle will intensify as it winds down for the first time. And then it will pick up again at the end of this year before stopping altogether, which you'll be pleased to hear about, in the first quarter of 2026. Taurus, very new Aries cycles in your 12th house, in both your charts actually, and the North Node in your 12th house show that publicly and privately there are so many more new possibilities with religion, therapy, self-help, hypnosis, the tarot, psychics, mediums, spirituality, meditation, dreams, and all your inner life. Now, none of this really shows up on the outside, but you will feel it on the inside as these new Aries cycles start to take hold. Neptune went into Aries in the final week of March, and Saturn is headed there in the final week of May, and Chiron is already there. So there's quite a lot going on behind the scenes, and you need to be alone to deal with it. The 12th house is about solitude. In the Middle Ages, this part of the horoscope was associated with monasteries, priests, monks, and nuns, and convents. So that gives you an idea of what it's really all about. In modern life, of course, religion has far less to do with us. So you may be looking at something that's solitary and introspective and about your soul, but that has nothing to do with other people's ideas about faith. Of course, there are just as many Taurus people who are tied to religion, and maybe something like the passing of the Pope is personally affecting you or somebody in your family. Whatever's going on, though, you will draw your own conclusions, Taurus, this week. And by the time you get to the end of May, we'll be ready for the second phase with all of this, whether you are committing to therapy, for example, or whether you are sorting out what you truly believe. Gemini. Sometimes this new Neptune in Aries cycle with friends can take place only online. And if you want an escape from the real world, these people on the internet or this group online is the outlet. Socially, in the real world, you are moving towards a holiday from reality, rather than staying stuck where you were in 2024. What happens this week in terms of your own or other people's bands, clubs, communities, charities, societies, and other circles will help you into quite a new bubble. Neptune in Aries in your 11th house joins Chiron in Aries in the 11th house. And this is the house of the community or the circle, but also the ally or the true friend. So things are moving. And if we go to your birth chart, we see things are also moving there. If you have anything in Aquarius in your birth chart, it's powerful and it will change your life. However your personal chart looks, now is the time to think about what it would feel like to come up with rules or a new set of agreements with these people or about them in the final week of May, because that will help you create a bit more structure to what is currently floating. So whether this is a formal group like a band or whether it's just a social circle that you have, if you think about the final week of May in your diary as coming to some sort of agreement or understanding together, that will give a bit of structure as Saturn goes into this area of your chart. Cancer. The nodes in Pisces and Virgo will take you towards closure with foreigners or foreign countries this week. What happens will relate to your life as it was 18 or 19 years ago, even if the people are different or the nationality or the country is different. Sometimes this cycle, the North Node in Pisces in your 9th house, is about a different culture in your own country, a different way of life, perhaps within your own town, tied to you through people that you know or people who are quite close to you. What appears this week is tied to yesterday, as I said, 18 or 19 years before, and that's because in astrology, the nodes go backwards, not forwards, and whenever they turn up, we have to aim for a bit of closure with karma. So you have some unfinished business from that period in your life, which you'll feel this year and next year, and at the moment, you are on the road towards signing off from it because you are clearly owed karmically, or maybe you owe other people. Sometimes it feels as if the debt is going to be repaid or collected by the universe itself, and that can also happen over the next 7 days. You may be dealing with a whole group of countries or maybe just one nationality in your town, but this week is a chance for you to start tying some knots and also signing off. Leo, you will get a radically different new job in this cycle, which ends in July. You may retire, resign, or find that your current position is reshaped in a new way, which liberates you. Your side hustle may end up being the new path, or in your existing career, unpaid role, or your studies, you will be given alternatives starting this week that set you free. Uranus in Taurus is here to replace what was with what might be, and this cycle will take you through to July, so it's a good time to take advantage of it this week before you get to July. On the flip side, there is nothing predictable about what goes on. You can never say what's going to happen next with your new direction, professionally, academically, or in the unpaid work sphere. So you have to have plenty of juggling really at your fingertips this week and ongoing until July, because the last thing you expected is usually the first thing that happens on this transit. This cycle, though it ends in July, near your birthday, will resume at the end of the year, and then you have a few more months of not knowing and not being entirely sure until this cycle stops for good. So by the time you get to the second half of 2026, when it comes to your profession, your university or college life, or your unpaid role, you will discover what life used to be like before 2018, when you knew who and what was coming next. Virgo. Life without Neptune in Pisces and that long period of escapism offered by your other half or presented to you by the other side is now real. That takes a few weeks to get used to. From 2011 to 2025 to date, you were given a vacation from everything that was normal and everyday because of a particular man or woman. This may have been your ex-business partner, your ex-husband, or it may be your current wife or professional partner. The 7th house, where Neptune was, also rules enemies, rivals, and opponents. Even somebody who was against you gave you a holiday from the real world. But now that's well and truly over. And if you are still trotting out the same expectation or attitude that you had before March, it may be well out of date. It's time to zoom in on the North Node in Pisces. Neptune in Pisces has gone, and Saturn in Pisces will go at the end of May. So this North Node in Pisces in your chart is about this man or woman and the karma. You owe or are owed, and there has to be some sort of completion this week. If you've not yet done this, you might think about allowing yourself a deadline so that you can call it a day in terms of collecting or receiving. And sometimes you have to do the deal with the universe on this cycle and not with the other person. So there almost has to be a compromise with all that is on a spiritual level. You have to accept what is there because in many ways it started 18 or 19 years ago, either with this person or another face. Libra. There's really no instant judgment to be made on this end cycle with your lifestyle, your workload, your health. The key is keeping it real because now you can. You just ended a very long Neptune cycle. Neptune left Pisces and your zone of workload and well-being on all levels at the end of March, and Saturn will go at the end of May. The North Node is the only thing that stays, so that's like 3 lanes of traffic in your horoscope, all changing in 3 months. It will absolutely affect this week how you feel about your plans for your mental and physical health, your work ethic, unpaid work, the housework, your daily routine and your lifestyle. What you now have to deal with is the real world. So the endless shifting of what was there and what wasn't there has stopped. You were never entirely sure on this long Neptune cycle, which ran for so many years. It may have been your doctor. It may have been your employer or your staff. There may have been slipping and sliding all over the place, just with the most basic things at home. When Neptune goes, with it goes the end of a person, a situation, or an organisation, and that may already be quite well known to you. In other cases, it was set in motion in the final week of March, but it may take you until the final week of May, Libra, for you to actually sign off. So something as simple as getting out of one job and getting into a different one, which has more structure and more reality, is a good example. But so is changing your attitude towards your food and drink, your doctor, and any alternative health. That can also happen on this cycle. Living your life this week without Neptune passing through Pisces, passing through the 6th house of your chart, is something that would benefit you to go in to more detail with, because we're looking at a cycle when so much accumulated over so many years that you almost need to pick it apart with a pair of tweezers and a microscope. Scorpio. Jupiter in your solar, finance and property zone offers you opportunities and solutions. Meanwhile, Uranus in your finance and property zone natally in your birth chart offers you freedom and independence. So do tune into this cycle in your 8th house, which is all about what you own, earn or owe in relation to other people, usually your marriage, your de facto partnership or a family member. These 2 transits in Gemini are really game changers, as you will see from July, when Uranus goes into Gemini, again into your 8th house. This may be about the mortgage, an inheritance, a legacy, or a will. It can be about a divorce settlement or child benefit payments. The 8th house is always personal, and when we go to your birth chart or your solar chart, we find your sun there. So normally this is where you shine. You either shine or you have work to do. And what you're being told at the moment in your horoscope this week is that it's up to you to make it shine. This involves understanding the price tags on things that you can't really price in normal terms. So you could be looking at a house, an apartment, a salary, a credit card, a debt, a set of shares, but you need to look at it beyond the numbers your chart is telling you, because it's actually about the relationship with the other person or the other people, and that's a different kettle of fish. Sagittarius. It may not be until this very new Neptune in Aries cycle has finished that you are able to appreciate many years from now just how different reality became. And this week shows you that in terms of pregnancy, babies, infants, school children, teenagers or millennials. Right now, you are in a very new cycle where you are in an altered state, if you like, or a different reality, a different film or television series concerning a younger generation. It may be affecting you because you want to adopt. It may be affecting you because you are the parent of a young adult. However it's showing up, and it may be professional, so you could be a teacher, this is not a bad week to try and get real about what just became not real. You now have Neptune in Aries and Chiron in Aries in your fifth house. The fifth house of your solar chart is about the heirs, spares, and pretenders to your throne. So that's why it's associated with the younger generation. Life will feel as if you've gone from normality and reality to something a little bit different, a little bit alternative, and maybe you could call it a parallel universe compared to where you were before March. To other people, what's happening around you doesn't resemble your old life at all, and this may be because of factors way beyond your control. Getting used to this cycle is part of what this week is all about, and if you need personal insights on this, you can use the Smith-Waite Tarot and the Modern I Ching on my website, which are free to use, and draw a couple of cards and see where you're being taken with it all. The real clinch is Saturn in Aries from the final week of May, and that could be on your diary regarding a child or a teenager, for example. When Saturn goes into this zone of your chart from the final week of May, you now have to structure your life quite differently. So this is a bit of an interim period when everything's floating along, nothing is being organised really, but within a few weeks it will be. Capricorn. You are now out of the long Neptune in Pisces cycle. It takes a few days to adapt to. Local travel, internet publishing, the media, your voice across all mediums and media suggests that the end of years of confusion is really different for you. You are ruled by Saturn, which is all about practical steps, and here we have a cycle that has not been practical at all for you. It's been so very different for you, and it ran for years. Neptune in Pisces in your third house, in your solar chart, is about drifting and floating and cruising with zero boundaries online, and that's worked both ways for you. You may have assumed a different identity online or been affected by people who are faking their face or name. That has added to the confusion. At the same time, whenever you get a Neptune transit, there's no sense of the time that you're spending online or what it's doing to the rest of your life. That's pretty common too. Now that that cycle is over and it's stopped for whatever reason in the final week of March, you have a bit of sorting out to do. The end of May is showing up in your horoscope, so maybe that's in your diary, but it looks as though the internet will be part of a bigger thing that happens then that will finally help you to go back to the real world. Learning a second language, speech therapy, are also third house matters. So is communication per se, whether it's how you communicate, how you get your message across, or how you understand other people's communication. So where things are at now is pretty different compared to where they were, but it also gives you a chance to get on firmer ground. You are an earth sign. You benefit from situations which ground you and bring you back down to earth. What has been happening for such a long time, you are now able to address and find a different way to deal with. So it may be dropping one's social media website, for example, or it may even be changing the settings on your telephone. On a larger scale, there may be bigger concerns with the corporate side of the internet, but whatever it is, you're now on your merry way. Aquarius. Do use this cycle with younger people by June. It's the biggest and best in 12 years. You may have already done that since last year, but there is more to go. And younger people, whether they are your son or daughter, other people's children, or just a younger generation, suggest to you this week that there is a solution or an opportunity that once it's gone, doesn't come back. That's quite true on this transit because it only lasts for a few more weeks. You basically have until early June to take full advantage of what is clearly an open door this week. You may need to sort out your son's education, for example, or you may find that there's an offer on the table for you to become a godparent. You may be a teacher looking at star pupils. It's on that level. There could be some big payoffs on a more personal level for you if you take the solutions. Maybe you're looking at IVF, adoption or step parenting, or child custody. This is a big year for all of this because not just Jupiter in Gemini, but from July, Uranus in Gemini moves in, and these are pretty rare cycles. So your relationship with the younger generation is centre stage all year, and in fact, what you decide to do after July will change your life and probably change theirs as well. One of the reasons that the situation has been so stuck for so long is that in your birth chart, we have had Mars going backwards in the same chart zone. And if you have anything in Leo, you can double that message. Even though things are taking time to sort out, though, this week speeds them up. And from July, the younger generation, from babies to Generation Z, offers you a revolution, a radically different way of doing things, a way of breaking with the past, and a way of being far more free and independent. For some of you, this is just the fact that a child becomes an adult, or you may decide to reshuffle what's happening within the family circle. Freedom and independence are really good goals, though, and worth keeping in mind this week. Pisces. So Pisces, on this cycle, and particularly this week, it's a good time to look at the alternative options that you missed out on taking over the last 6 to 12 months. If you were procrastinating over quite a radical and different way to use the web, procrastinate no more, because you will realise pretty quickly that once you go through this doorway, others come out of that pathway. This is also about writing and speaking, especially public speaking and podcasting. But on a core level, it's about how you take in information and how you give it out. So there may be an issue here about your hearing, for example, or your eyesight. Going through this cycle, Uranus in Taurus in the solar third house is pretty rare at the moment, because when we go to your birth chart, we find Jupiter also in the third house. So it's 2 cycles at the same time, publicly and privately. Artificial intelligence or AI may have something to do with this for you. And if so, you're being told this week that the real beginning will be from July onwards and go for many years into the future. Uranus in astrology is a symbol of shock, independence, freedom, and the world turning upside down. In Taurus, in your third house, it's always about the World Wide Web. Sometimes rejecting the internet is the way to do that. And sometimes it's just about a different phone or computer or a new medium with which to explore your message. It's a good week to zoom in on all of this because it's not lasting for too much longer. This cycle does have an endpoint in July, and even though it resumes at the end of the year, you will be covering old tracks, not starting anything new. So if you're going to get on with the revolution and set yourself free, it really has to be about this week, and new inventions or new technology will play its part. I'm going to end this podcast with a message to you about astrology delivery, which is a way to get some or all of what you want by using old-fashioned horoscope timing. Now, I'm sure you've heard about manifesting, the secret, positive visualization, creative visualization, affirmations, and all the rest of it. But over the last few years, readers have been telling me that it's all been quite hit and miss, which is why we began developing, the readers of my website and I, a system called Astrology Delivery, where you can actually see results. You can do this using timing and be quite specific and targeted with it. Now, there is a new window for booking coming up in what is known as Gemini season. If you're a premium member at my website, you can pick up a calendar which will show you all the booking periods for your sign for this year. If you are, for example, a Sagittarian, this is going to be about booking for relationships. And with this Gemini weather coming up, if you're a Pisces, it's about booking for a house or apartment. So depending on your sign, you have a window of opportunity. And the way it works is something like this. You figure out the dates. So usually be 4 or 5 different dates that you can make your booking on. You find a notebook. You, on the day in question, write down what you would like in relation to the possibilities that are open to your sign. And then you just pull a tarot card from my website to show you what the gateway is until the next booking. The reason that you have different dates to book on is that sometimes people get what they want immediately. And so obviously they change what they're writing down next time. But you might also find along the way that you want to modify or even get rid of what you originally had down on your list. That can happen too. When I say you get some or all of what you want with a bit of luck, Readers have written to tell me everything about a place at Oxford University to £60,000 that they weren't expecting, to an engagement, to rapid weight loss that they never thought could happen so quickly, and so on. And sometimes the results from astrology delivery are pretty unexpected. It wasn't written down in your journal, but it does help you proceed towards your ultimate goal. So that can happen too. It's free to try. There is a huge amount of stuff on my website about this, including many, many testimonials. And if you go to the Astrology and Tarot show on Substack, which is the best place to pick up this podcast, you can find out more. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch up with you next week.